Hey everybody, it's Tafony here once again. Hope you're doing well today. I'm rambling about the SSF Vortices HiFi. It sounds like this. Okay, SSF Vortices. So, forgive the weird intro jam in sound and look. I wanted to demonstrate everything that it can do. It can be a VCA, it can be a stereo mixer, it can be a mono mixer in a separate way with effects send and routing it back in. It can do lots of things, and I'm sure that made it hard to listen to maybe. Definitely hard to see because the I.O. is so jammed up with so many patch cables, but hopefully I have given you a demo of its VCA capabilities, its routing options, its performance use, and how you do probably need to fight the cables to get at it a little bit. But I will also say, first and foremost, I should probably mention this is the HiFi version. The regular quote-unquote version is the not the lo-fi version, but it's just the Vortices. I was reading in a thread online, and I don't know if it's actually true, that the HiFi version only exists because of the chip shortage during the pandemic. So I don't know if that is actually true or not, but alas, the HiFi exists here. I did, in my early days, when I was brand new to Eurorack, briefly own a used Vortices regular version, but I really like using a mono mixer output, running 4 drums into the mono mixes, sending the mono mix, and then sacrificing one of my stereo channels to use as a drum channel out of the stereo mix. And what that did on the regular Vortices is run that 90s mixing console, not emulation, but inspired by that colored sound that the regular version had, and do it twice, right? Because it's going through the mono mix, out, and then back in, so it's layering it twice. And my drums were just totally high pass the heck out. They sounded like crap. And you might love that sound. I don't have a nostalgic attachment for anything or for it or anything, and you might not use that routing option, so it might be totally cool for you. But okay, so I'll say on the regular Vortices, all of the pictures include it and this 2HP VCA expander, but the pictures of the HiFi on the stores that I saw never had the VCA expander, and I just figured it didn't come with it because it was the HiFi version, the fancier version, I guess, although I'm pretty sure it's the less fancy version if you think about it. But I just want to say that at least where I got it from, you buy the HiFi version, you get the same VCA expander, which is really appreciated. Because I was just having a conversation recently that stereo VCAs are really hard to come by for some reason, and I don't know why. I don't know if it's just because stereo means dual in the Eurorack world and you just use 2 VCAs, but anyway, Vortices will give you 3 of them. So you can never have enough VCAs. Well, here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, technically 10. I know the stereo pairs are another thing, but hey, lots of VCAs that I really appreciate. So with all that being said, I've had a lot of Eurorack mixers, really basic ones. They'll do just fine, basically like a AC coupled attenuator. That's totally fine. But when it comes to trying to bring the mix in, there's a lot of compromises that have to happen. If you are expecting a standard desktop mixer that includes physical faders, EQ, none of them have EQs, including the Vortices. I really wish they did. I don't know why it's so hard to come by, but again, I know it's probably because there's compromises in cost and size and spacing, but the faders on all of the ones I've tried so far, and I haven't tried the performance mixer, I haven't tried that board brain one, the faders have been pretty questionable at best. They've, on all the ones I've tried, it's kind of been yeah, they're nice, they're there. It's like I appreciate faders more than potentiometers, but you know, it felt like a compromise on them, and it's okay. But compromises are made, and I think the compromise that you probably want to make as a buyer, and I might change my mind if I try one of those other ones for sure, but I think getting potentiometers over faders is a worthwhile compromise because in a way smaller size than those, performance mixer I believe is more than 3 times the size of the Vortices, or the board brain one. They're just way bigger and have, more routing options, sure, but I just think Vortices for a quarter of the price and space does 90% of the things that you do while, sacrificing very little other than cost, to be honest. But I would love to try those things out too. I bet those faders feel fun. But again, Eurorack mixers, physical faders, pick, the thing, do you want it cheap? Do you want it fast? Or do you want it done well you can only pick 2? I feel like when it comes to Eurorack mixers, it's like, do you want faders? Do you want EQs? Do you want size? Do you want price? I don't know how many of those you get to choose, but when it comes to the Vortices, I feel like you only give up faders and you get good everything else. And I will say on that front, to that line of thinking, that I do want to try that Bufacco Hex mix, the one that is supposed to be like a mixing console but takes up multiple rows. That looked really cool, but again, out of stock everywhere. I don't know if they discontinued it or what. But yeah, I wish there was EQs and mixers. Give us EQs and mixers. So anyway, that's a bit of my background. Sorry for the babbling, but hey, it's in the title. So Vortices, what does it do? It can mix 4 mono sources. I'm covering it with my hand, sorry. 4 mono sources, which I'd like to use for drums. Let's throw some drums in. And then I'm going to, for the simplicity of this video, get rid of my mix routing there and just use the master output. So the master output is a sum of the mono and stereo outputs. Let's route into that so you can hear everything going in. You only hear it in one channel right now because we haven't patched into the other one. So there's your SSF Ultra Kick. I really like how it sounds, as always. Bring in another drum voice. And these little potentiometers, which actually feel pretty solid. And I don't know if it's just because mine's brand new and they haven't gotten wiggly yet, but I like how they feel. They can be panned too. So you'll hear the ear is probably reversed in the patch somewhere, but these two can be panned. These two can be panned, so you get a bit of a stereo image out of your mono voices, which I really appreciate that. But there's a clap going in, and then we'll bring in my ride. So we've got our full drum kit in the mono output. I will throw a little bit of panning in here. Now, my Crucible is summing the mono source of 2, but if you wanted to bring your own hi-hats and go between open and close, this X fade, beside the pans, will crossfade between this input. Let's mute this one. So right now we only hear the clap on this side. And then there's CV control over this as well, same for the pans. So really cool. And if you want to hook this up to a joystick, I think it would be really awesome to noodle with the pans and the crossfade that way, because you can really push a 3D image out of 4 mono sources on the bottom. And this is one of those things with the Vortices that I'm just like, that is really powerful in a really small size. But not only do you get all that, bring my kick back in, bring in my hi-hats, bring my X fade back to the middle. Not only do you get all that, but you get a VCA control over all of them with the expander, which you don't have to use. There's also a mutes one, which I do not have, but send an envelope to my kicks. So if I just gate them in that way, it's a fun performance tool too, as I was trying to demonstrate in the intro video to mix effect, but yeah, there. Does what it says on the tin. Now, when it comes to the outputs, there is a X fade output, so you can actually isolate and reroute back in the output of the crossfading of those channels. I haven't found a use for that just yet, but it's modular. There's a use for everything, of course. Then there are the dedicated mono outputs, and I believe this will actually show your stereo image as well. Let's see. So right now it's going to be the same. If I, yep, you get your stereo image that way too, right? So just be careful if you're using that for my example where you are routing it out and back in, that if you're panning something to the left and only using one of those channels, well, you might just lose a bit of it. There are aux returns, so if I want to send my whole, here, let's zoom this out so you can see, I want to send my whole drum mix through the Desmodus Versio, which I would love to do. We can, forgive me, it's plugged into something else. Take my mono mix out, make this totally wet, and this might actually make it a little wonky, but let's see. So now, using the returns, I have sent a stereo source in. Now, because this makes the mixing a little wonky, and that's my example I had before, I do like to do this, use the stereo output. So now you can only hear sorry, one moment. I was using the mono returns. That is the mono. Sorry, I was using the stereo returns. This is the mono returns now. So mono, we're sending out to our Desmodus Versio. Now, if I send this back into a stereo channel, I have a submix of my drums in the third channel. And this is how I like to run Vortices. I think this is really powerful, and I've never really found I need more than 3 stereo channels. And if I did, I would consider how I do things at that point. You'll notice I didn't patch the auto dyne in, which I always use the auto dyne on my drum mixes like every time, but Desmodus in. If you want just drums on your reverb, just reverb on your drums. You can do that, but now, if I'm patching in a stereo voice, this is Piston Honda going into the multi-effects. Again, it's a mono source, not a stereo one. You know what? We already heard that one. Let's use an actual stereo source like the Vic X. Vic X into channel 1. Drone it out because this reverb is drone 2. Putting that in. Sorry, it gets real crazy real fast. Vic is in. I want to VCA that because it's just a drone currently. Let's gate it on the side of the Fuji. And this, because Vic has a effect built in, I can put the VCA after the reverb, which it isn't on the on board. So now we have our VCA going. A bunch of gates going. Now I can make Vic super crazy. Yeah. My drums could probably be louder. Bring in my other drum voices. And that is the Vortices HiFi. This also, the different outputs give you different routing options down the chain. And sorry, I'm probably super quiet right now. If you look in, I also have the Begar, so you can take this crazy monstrosity that I have in here and route its output using the stereo output like I already am. And I don't know, let's run it through the Overseer and the Begar. And we'll play it again. And now I can filter sweep this entire double submix here. I think Vortices is one of the best implementations of your rack mixers, and there are some headaches with them, as always. Again, I really wish this just had, like if you had a desktop mixer, you would have faders, you would have EQs, you'd have physical mutes, all things you kind of give up by going this route. But when it comes to doing most everything else, I think this is about as a complete mixing option at a reasonable size and most importantly, a reasonable price that you can find. And I think Vortices is a great utility to have. So I'm curious what your thoughts on your rack mixers are. And I'm not just saying that because Alphabet is always on me to farm engagement or whatever, just because I have had so many rack mixers and they all make compromises, including the Vortices, but I think Vortices is the least compromises other than the EQs. So you let me know what you think in the comments. I appreciate you. I'm Tafony. Thank you so much. Take care, and I will talk to you soon.